1. You are not your brain. Your being contains safety, love, and everything you want. Enlightenment is the feeling of oneness with being, a connection to something infinite and incorruptible. And it can be felt when the mind is calm and paying attention to the present fully and powerfully, while mental noise prevents you from feeling being. Identity with reason separates between you and yourself, between you and your brother man, and between you and nature. The mind is a wonderful tool when you use it correctly, but you are not your mind. It is a tool, so free yourself from it because it is the cause of your misery. Do not listen to the voice of your mind and do not make judgments. Consider yourself when you listen to your mind that you are a witness to the idea and thus withers, because you do not provide the mind with energy by identifying with it. And when the thought stagnates, you live in a state of disconnection in the mental current, causing an intellectual gap on reason, which is at first a few seconds and then length. Then you feel with calmness and inner peace, and this is the beginning of unification with being, where you will feel when you are united with it a flood of joy emanating from within, the joy of being, and you will be more alert and awake. Direct your attention to the present moment. Now you have to become aware of the power of the present moment. Create a gap in the irrational high alertness and attention without thinking. This is the essence of meditation, so focus on any activity you do and give it all your attention so that it becomes an end in itself. The ego regards its past and future as very important, but you use your mind only when it is needed, but in an efficient manner. No mind is awareness without thinking. In this way you may think supernaturally because thought here is a real power. The mind is basically a survival machine, attack and defense against other minds, but it is not creative. Creativity comes from no mind, from inner calm. Scientists and great people said that their creations came in a moment of mental calm, and whoever cannot stop thinking cannot create. Emotion is the body's reaction to your mind, such as the idea of being threatened, so your body becomes ready to fight, and sometimes there is a conflict between reason and emotion. In this case, the emotion is the real and the mind is a lie. Emotion is energy, which in turn provides energy for thought. One of the mind's tasks is to fight emotional pain, so it becomes the cause of its permanent activity, partially concealing it. But the more the mind struggles to get rid of the pain, the more the pain becomes because it is an essential part of the problem. Love, peace, and deep joy are possible and flourish after you free yourself from the domination of the mind. But they are not emotions, but they lie behind emotions on a deeper level than them, for the state of internal association with being. As for love and pleasure in the non-enlightenment state, they are short-lived and derived from something external. Love turns into hate because it turns into its opposite. Temporary love and pleasure are not real. True love does not make you suffer. From them we cut all the cords of desire. Emotional love is the cause of physical pain, guilt, anger, etc. All of them contain an emotional climax on the seat of pain. Both poles are positive and negative. Pleasure is followed by pain. They are two sides of the same coin called latent pain that is inseparable from the egoistic state of consciousness, identical with the mind. 2. Awareness is the way to free you from pain. The intensity of the pain depends on the degree of resistance to the present moment. The more you are able to respect and accept the present, the more free you will be from pain. The mind, until it controls, veils the present and veils the present. The present moment is all we have, so make now the chief concern of your life. Make it your dwelling place, with short visits to the past and to the future when it is required, and accept all the contents of the present moment as if you had chosen it. The massive pain wants to survive if you unconsciously identify with it, and choose the past as your home or the future. Psychological pain is nourished by pain and not by joy, and when you observe this massive pain, the identification with it ends. When you observe the massive pain, it tries to keep working for a while, and tries to trick you into identifying with it in the form of physical pain, but it does not last. When feeling the massive pain, focus on the feeling inside you and accept the idea that the massive pain is present. For example, sadness, anger, anxiety. But do not think about it and do not turn the feeling into thinking. Upon you, you do not need to be afraid in order to avoid unnecessary danger. You keep your hand away from the fire, not because you are afraid, but because you know that it will burn. The psychological state of fear is separate from any direct physical and real fear that comes in the forms of anxiety, sadness, depression, nervousness, tension, phobia, panic. Psychological fear is caused by something that may happen. This is because you are in the now, but your mind is in the future. The ego is sensitive, feels insecure, and sees itself constantly threatened, and desires to appear, even if the ego is externally confident about itself, and to prove that the other is wrong, because the ego feels threatened with abolition. It is the fear of death in the end. Power over others is a weakness disguised as strength. Anyone with an identical mind separated from his true strength rooted in his being, fear will be his constant companion. The ego is looking for perfection. Emotional pain is a deep feeling of incompleteness or lack of perfection at the level of my feelings or unconsciousness with anxiety and others. That is why people struggle for influence, success, or power with special relationships until they feel more perfect. But when these things are achieved, they discover that the gap still exists. As long as your ego is running your life, you can't really feel comfortable, or you can only be at peace for short periods. 3. Going deep to now. Problems of the mind cannot be solved at the level of the sameness of the mind. The mind creates a false ego as a substitute for your true self rooted in being. The past gives you an identity, and the future holds the promise of salvation by being fulfilled in any form. Both are illusions. Time is not important at all because it is an illusion. What you see as valuable is not time, but rather the now that lies outside time. The more you focus on the past and the future, the more you lose the present, which is the most valuable thing in being is the present. That is the only one. It is all that exists. Nothing happens in the past or the future, but rather happens in the now. The past is the trace of memory, stored in the memory of a previous I, and the future is a perceived I. The Sufi is the son of the present time, and pain needs time, and it cannot live in the present. Through self-monitoring, more of the present enters your life automatically. Your mind monitors your emotions and reactions. Watching it drains energy from it and turns into the present. Time of the hour is the use of time in the practical aspects of your life, in which learning is done from the past so that the same mistakes are not repeated, and goals are set and work to achieve them, and the prediction of the future by means of physical and mathematical models and laws. But make this happen quickly until you return to the present. The attention of the enlightened person is always focused on the now, and he does not get stuck in the time of the hour or turn the time of the hour into psychological time, that is, your sense of yourself, your self-criticism and feelings of guilt. Beware of that. Be careful to focus strongly on the goal without being present in the now, as this turns the time of the pursuit into a psychological time. Psychological time has its manifestations as a mental illness, as we find its collective manifestations embodied in groups such as communism, that the good lies in the future, and the end justifies the means, and for that 50 million people have died. How does a mental model work in your life? Do you want to get to a different place from where you are? Is most of what you do just a means to your end? Do you believe that by obtaining things that you achieve self-sufficiency and feel comfortable in the normal state of consciousness similar to the unenlightened mind? Psychological time controls the strength and energy present in the present, and old patterns of thinking, actions, and reactions are repeated, and the future is made as a barrier to escape from the present unsatisfactory. Your problems will not change until you can deal with the dysfunction of your mind, making major problems with attachment to the past and the future and denial of the now. The circumstances of your life exist in time while your life is now. It is an act of the mind while your life is an actual reality. Use your senses and look around you and at the shapes and colors, and be aware of the silent presence of everything you see. Listen to the sounds and watch your breathing and feel the energy of life in your body. Problems are made by the mind that need time to survive. The problem means that a certain circumstance accompanies you mentally in the absence of an actual intention to do an action now, and thus making your unconsciousness a part of your sense of yourself and preoccupied with the circumstance of your life to the extent that you lose the sense of life and being. Fear is often the cause of what people say and think. It is connected to the focus on the future and the absence of communication with the present. And just as the problems do not exist in the present, fear does not exist in it. But if a circumstance arises that must be controlled, it will take a clear and decisive action, and your action will be far effective about the reaction stemming from your mind's past conditions. Not feeling happy in what you do does not mean that you must change it, but rather a change in how you do it. The quality is often more important than the substance. Don't bother. As a result of your action, focus your attention on the action itself, and you will feel its result. When you are freed from psychological time, you will be free from fear and will not be criticized for activism because of the fear of failure. 4. Strategies of the mind to avoid now. At first, you will move back and forth between the presence in the ego and the state of identification with the mind until the presence becomes the state in which you live most of the time. Sex, food, drugs, and alcohol help the subconscious to remove confusion, but only for a short period of time. There is the normal unconscious, which is identical with the mind, that it is a low level of confusion, tension, and boredom, and people resort to food, alcohol, and others to remove this confusion. It is an intense image of the normal subconscious, different from it, not in kind but in degree. Then a certain reaction controls you, which is ultimately a form of fear, and you sink into the deep unconscious. Resistance is now a collective dysfunction that has created a civilization to the point of violence and misery. We can be liberated from pain and achieving awareness by contemplating the ways in which you are confused, such as insufficiency and tension through judgments you release, resistance to feeling for what is, and denial now. On the ordinary subconscious, your light shine, and you are able to deal with the deep subconscious whenever you feel its presence. Am I comfortable now? What is going on inside me now? Ask yourself these questions, and if you have a problem that I work to solve, for example, your relationships with someone, either you solve the problem or give up the negativity, because everything you do under negative energy achieves negative results that harm everyone and result in more pain and unhappiness. If humans eliminate indoor pollution, they will not pollute the outside. Abandon negativity through your acceptance of reality, for example, the loss of a lover. Accept now and your constant attention to it. Abandon the normal subconscious models because you do not want them. Negativity is not having the ability to choose the feeling of confusion or not to choose another feeling in which you feel happy. The mental acceptance of bad feelings is to admit that they exist and transform them radically without mental judgment. Silence. Speak what you think is possible. Any bad psychological state is either to get yourself out of this state or change it or accept it completely and then bear the consequences of your choice without excuse or negative. If you want to change your life, give up negativity first. Know your fear and watch it. Does it prevent you from taking some actions? And be present with it. Use strength now, for fear cannot overcome this force. If you cannot do anything about your condition, accept it completely. And this is the surrender by which you are freed from this condition internally, and you will see it. But if you can do something, do it now to change your condition. Otherwise, accept your laziness, and in both cases you will not suffer an internal struggle. If you feel pressured by the illusion of reaching the future, move fast, work fast, and run, but do not visualize yourself in the future, and do not resist the present. Move and run, work and enjoy it. Resist anxiety by acknowledging the present moment. Be aware of the breathing process and the energy field within you. Abandon your past. You do not need it, and do not return to it unless you are directly connected to the present, and do not say, I will succeed one day. When does your life always begin? Waiting is a state of mind. You don't want what you got. Your desire is the solutions of the future and your rejection of the present, and cause yourself an inner conflict between now and here. So accept your present reality completely, and when you do that, you will be thankful and grateful for being, and this is actual prosperity. The miserable and sinful soul, based on the symmetry of the mind, lives with time, past and future, but the present moment is death and a greater threat to its continuation. If you focus on the steps you will take in the future, they get more of your attention than the step you take now. You lose the inner purpose of the journey. What sets you free from your past is not your future, but your present. The strength of now is the strength of your presence. The more you pay attention to the past, the more you give it energy. Attention is necessary, but direct it to the present. 5. Attendance status. Focus your attention on and feel the energy field inside your body. Focus your total attention on the now, and then there will be nothing left to daydream, think, expect, and remember. This presence is devoid of all tension and fear. You will be present with your total being in every cell of your body. Satori are moments of Satori flashes in which the mind is absent, and the presence is complete and complete. As you look at the sky on a clear night, and you are amazed by the scene and feel fear and dread, but the mind needs silence to realize that. The mind does not recognize beauty and does not create it. This happens when you are there as a present in it. But there are people who hold themselves in their minds to the point that the beauty of nature no longer exists for them. Presence is the being that has realized itself. In sex and drinking, the mind is prevented from interfering. It is a temporary liberation from the power of the mind, but not a real liberation. Listening to silence wherever you are is an easy and direct way to become present. It is there even with the noise, and listening to the conscience establishes the stillness inside you. 6. The inner body. No one has been enlightened through the denial or paradox of the body, or through an out-of-body experience. Try hard to feel your inner body while you read or listen. You will only find the truth inside your body. Be in constant contact with your inner body. The higher its vibrational frequency, like the light, the brighter it becomes, and it is easier for you to observe your mind when it is rooted inside your body. Whatever happens outside will not affect you. When challenges occur to you, try to immediately get inside yourself and focus as much as you can on the inner energy field of your body. It takes a few seconds, and never be late. Forgiveness is submission and non-resistance to life, but rather allowing it to live through you. The alternative is pain, torment, and physical illness. Lack of reconciliation is the nature of the mind and ego. You can slow down the aging of the body, and it's aging by attending. If you reach the presence of your natural state of consciousness, time does not accumulate in yourself and in the cells of your body. Time hinders the ability of cells to regenerate. When you reside in the inner body, the outer body slowly ages. It also helps in strengthening the immune system. Breathing leads you into the body. If you find it difficult to see yourself surrounded by light, immersed in a luminous substance in a sea of consciousness, breathe in that light and feel that luminous substance illuminating your body. Then focus on how you feel. Use your focus on the inner energy field to be creative, then return to thinking, and so on. When you listen to someone, listen with your inner body. 7. The doors to entering the unmanifested. Diseases mostly destroy the body if you are not present in it. But if you inhabit your body, it is difficult for unwanted guests to enter it, and the internal psychological immunity is also strengthened. The psychological immune system protects you from the mental energy fields of others by residing in your body and raising the vibrational frequencies of the energy field within you. Submerge your body in consciousness morning and evening. Close your eyes and lie on your back. Feel the energy of life within your organs. Then allow your attention to cross your body as a wave several times from the feet to the head and back for a minute. Then feel the entire inner body as a single energy field for several minutes. Be intensely present. Meditate by entering the depths of the body for 15 minutes. It is enough for that. Check that your body is relaxed and then breathe deeply. Limit your focus to feeling inward to keep you have a comprehensive sense of presence or being. Access to the non-formal world frees you from contact with the sameness with form, and the unmanifested is the invisible source of all things, and being within all beings is a world of deep stillness, joy and peace, and the more you are present, the more ready you are for the light and pure awareness from this source. Your awareness of no manifestation is through the sensory world by feeling the Spirit of God in every creature. You can enter the unmanifested by stopping to think. Surrender is another gateway that means giving up mental and emotional resistance. Silence outside and stillness inside is another gateway to the unmanifested. 8. Enlightened relationships. The joy of being does not depend on something outside it. You feel within yourself a good that has no opposite. It does not awaken the feeling of a fleeting experience, but rather a permanent presence free from fear, torment, and a state of poverty, deficiency, want, and need. It seems that most love and love relationships turn into hate relationships before a long time passes, so love turns into hostile feelings. Nothing gives her permanent sufficiency, so her fear remains apparent, as well as her sense of lack and need. Substitute love is what the ego secures for salvation. But every addiction arises from an unconscious refusal to face pain. More than ever, sometimes during intimate times, at the birth of a child, in the presence of death, or when suffering from a serious illness, these things happen. The mind loses its power. It is not easy for someone to live with an enlightened person. The ego needs problems and clash to nurture the sense of separation upon which its identity rests. A woman is closer to being than a man because it is easy for a woman to feel her body and reside in it. But a woman or a man is not complete on the level of identity of form, as he is part of a whole that is attracted to the opposite polarity of energy. You do not communicate deeply with men unless you are conscious of being, for if you come from it, you will be able to focus beyond the veil of form, and being male and female are one. In the case of enlightenment, you are yourself uniting with yourself. Do not judge it, do not regret it, do not love it or hate it. There is no longer a soul that needs to be protected. Then you are enlightened. You give up your relationship with yourself when all your relationships turn into love. 9. Behind happiness and unhappiness lies peace. Situations, when we see them from a sublime perspective, are always positive, and more clearly, not negative or positive, but rather what they are. When you live in total acceptance of what is, good and evil will disappear from your life. Allow things to be as they are. If you forgive each moment, the grudge that needs to be forgiven will not accumulate in the future. Most of the things that happen in people's lives are caused by ego. When things wither and scatter, you have to give them up to make way for new things. But if you resist that, you will be tormented. Things are transformed and changed. The same state that was good or bad turns suddenly or gradually into its opposite. Know the nature of things, lest you pursue an illusion for the rest of your life. When you give up your attachment to the form, your general life improves. The external forms and what you thought you needed for your happiness in terms of situations and things comes without effort. Happiness and external things are a faint reflection of the joy of being. If someone hurt you and said a hurtful word to you, do not resist and your reaction will be negative, but you can respond to him and tell him that his behavior is unacceptable, but do not allow him to control your internal state. Practice meditation and accept what is. Every moment is the best. This is enlightenment. The meaning of empathy is that you realize the deep connection that binds you to all other beings, and contemplating the demise of material forms, including your own form, is one of the strongest spiritual practices. 10. The meaning of surrender. Surrender to obey, rather than oppose, the course of life is to accept the present moment unconditionally and without any reservation. To give up the inner resistance of what is. The inner resistance is the rejection of the being through emotional, rational judgments. The pain gap is the gap between your brain's needs and expectations and what is. Surrender is not submission. If you are stuck in the mud, for example, do not judge anything, but accept the present moment without emotional negativity. Accept the objectivity of the present moment. This means working as hard as you can to get out of the mud. This is a positive action. Look at the moment, what you can do to change. What do you need to change the situation and improve it, or isolate yourself from it? When you can't isolate yourself from the situation, take advantage of it to dive into the depth of surrender, in the depth of the present, and in the depth of being. Then life becomes a help to you and a helper. Giving up changes your relationships. If you don't accept what is, you won't be able to accept anyone for who they are.